Can you pass me the carrots, Jenny?
Sure, here you go.
How many potatoes do we need for dinner?
We need 4 potatoes.
What ingredients do we need to make a salad?
We need lettuce, tomatoes, and cucumbers.
Why is it important to wash vegetables before cooking?
It helps remove dirt and bacteria.
Where do we keep the cooking oil?
It's in the pantry, Mom.
How much salt should we add to the soup?
Just a pinch of salt.
What's your favorite vegetable to cook, Jenny?
I like cooking broccoli.
When should we preheat the oven?
We should preheat it before baking.
Which knife should we use to chop the onions?
We should use the small knife.
What's the first step in making a pasta dish?
Boiling water for the pasta.
Who taught you how to cook, Jenny?
You taught me, Mom.
Can you stir the sauce while I chop the vegetables?
Yes, I can do that.
How long should we bake the chicken for?
About 30 minutes.
What's your favorite dish to cook, Jenny?
I like making chocolate chip cookies.
Why do we need to measure ingredients accurately?
It ensures the recipe turns out well.
Where did you learn to cook pasta?
I learned it in my cooking class.
How do we know when the cake is done baking?
We can use a toothpick to check if it comes out clean.
What's the secret ingredient in your special dish?
It's a secret, Mom.
When should we add the spices to the soup?
We should add them after the vegetables are cooked.
Who inspired you to start cooking, Jenny?
I saw you cooking and wanted to try it too.
What do you enjoy most about cooking?
I enjoy experimenting with flavors.
Can you chop the carrots into small pieces?
Yes, I can do that.
Why is it important to follow a recipe?
It helps us make the dish correctly.
Where do we keep the baking sheets?
They're in the drawer next to the oven.
How long should we marinate the chicken for?
About an hour.
What's the easiest dish you can cook, Jenny?
I can make scrambled eggs.
When should we add the sugar to the cake batter?
We should add it after mixing the wet ingredients.
Who taught you to make pancakes?
I learned it from Grandma.
How do we prevent food from sticking to the pan?
We can use cooking spray or oil.
What's your favorite kitchen tool, Jenny?
I like using the whisk.
Can you set the table for dinner, Jenny?
Yes, I'll set it right away.
Why do we need to let the dough rise?
It makes the bread fluffy.
Where do we keep the spices?
They're in the spice rack.
How many eggs do we need for the recipe?
We need 2 eggs.
What's the best way to clean cutting boards?
We can wash them with soap and water.
Who is your cooking idol, Jenny?
I look up to Chef Gordon Ramsay.
Can you grate the cheese for the pasta?
Yes, I can do that.
How long should we let the soup simmer?
About 20 minutes.
What's the key to a good stir fry, Jenny?
Cooking on high heat.
Why do we need to pre-soak beans before cooking?
It helps them cook faster.
Where did you learn to make pizza, Jenny?
I learned it in a cooking class.
How do we make sure the chicken is fully cooked?
We can use a meat thermometer.
What's your favorite part of the cooking process?
Tasting the final dish.
Can you peel the potatoes from mashed potatoes?
Yes, I can peel them.
Why is it important to wash hands before cooking?
It helps prevent the spread of germs.
Where do we keep the mixing bowls?
They're in the cupboard.
How many minutes should we steam the vegetables?
About 10 minutes.
What's the trick to a perfect omelet, Jenny?
Flipping it at the right time.
Can you help me season the chicken?
Yes, I'll sprinkle the seasoning.
Why do we let the meat rest before slicing?
It helps retain the juices. How do we know when the pasta is cooked?
We can taste a strand to check if it's al dente.
What's the best way to peel a mango?
We can use a knife or a peeler to remove the skin.
Can we substitute butter with oil in baking?
Yes, we can use oil as a substitute.
How do we prevent apples from browning?
We can squeeze lemon juice on them.
What's the secret to making fluffy pancakes?
It's important not to overmix the batter.
Why do we let dough rest before rolling it out?
It allows the gluten to relax, making it easier to work with.
Can we freeze leftover soup?
Yes, we can store it in the freezer for later.
What's the difference between baking soda and baking powder?
Baking soda needs an acid to activate, while baking powder already contains it.
How can we make whipped cream at home?
We can whip heavy cream until it forms stiff peaks.
Why do some recipes call for unsalted butter?
It allows us to control the salt content in the recipe.
Can we substitute honey for sugar in a recipe?
Yes, but we might need to adjust the liquid content.
How can we prevent lumps in gravy?
We can whisk the flour or cornstarch with cold liquid before adding it to the hot liquid.
What's the purpose of cream of tartar in baking?
It stabilizes egg whites and helps create a smoother texture.
Can we use parchment paper instead of greasing a pan?
Yes, it makes for easy cleanup and prevents sticking.
How can we ripen avocados quickly?
We can place them in a paper bag with a banana to speed up the process.
What's the best way to reheat leftover pizza?
Using a skillet or an oven gives a crispy texture.
Can we substitute Greek yogurt for sour cream?
Yes, they have a similar tang and creamy texture.
How can we prevent cookies from spreading too much?
Chilling the dough before baking helps maintain their shape.
What's the secret to a flaky pie crust?
Cold butter and careful handling of the dough.
Can we substitute buttermilk with regular milk?
Yes, by adding lemon juice or vinegar to regular milk.
How do we know if an egg is fresh?
By placing it in a glass of water. If it sinks, it's fresh.
Can we substitute all-purpose flour with whole wheat flour?
Yes, but the texture and flavor might be different.
What's the trick to keeping herbs fresh for longer?
Storing them in a jar with water in the refrigerator.
How do we prevent cheese from sticking to the grater?
Coating the grater with cooking spray or freezing the cheese slightly.
Can we substitute regular milk with almond milk in baking?
Yes, but the taste and texture might be slightly different.
What's the key to a juicy burger?
Avoid overcooking it and let it rest before serving.
How can we prevent pie crust from becoming soggy?
Brushing the crust with egg wash before baking creates a barrier. Yes, but the amount should be adjusted since dried herbs are more concentrated.
Can we substitute fresh herbs with dried herbs? What's the difference between broth and stock?
Broth is made from meat, while stock is made from bones.
How can we soften brown sugar that has hardened?
Placing a slice of bread or a damp paper towel in the container helps.
Can we substitute regular sugar with brown sugar in a recipe?
Yes, but the texture and flavor might be different.
What's the best way to store fresh berries?
Keeping them dry and refrigerated in a container.
How do we prevent onions from making a scry?
Chilling them in the refrigerator or cutting them under running water.
Can we substitute mayonnaise with Greek yogurt in a recipe?
Yes, it creates a lighter and healthier alternative.
What's the secret to a crispy fried chicken?
Double coating it with flour and allowing it to rest before frying.
How can we quickly soften butter for baking?
By cutting it into small pieces or grating it.
Can we substitute regular vinegar with apple cider vinegar?
Yes, but the flavor might be slightly different.
What's the trick to perfectly cooked rice?
Using the correct ratio of water to rice and letting it rest after cooking.
How can we prevent bananas from turning brown?
By storing them separately from other fruits.
Can we substitute tomato sauce with tomato paste?
Yes, by adding water or broth to achieve the desired consistency.
What's the secret to a flavorful marinade?
Balancing the flavors of acid, oil, herbs, and spices.
How can we prevent guacamole from turning brown?
Pressing plastic wrap directly onto the surface to minimize air exposure.
Can we substitute regular flour with gluten-free flour?
Yes, but the texture and taste might be different.
What's the trick to perfectly whipped egg whites?
Ensuring the bowl and whisk are clean and free from any grease.
How can we prevent homemade ice cream from becoming icy?
Adding a small amount of alcohol or corn syrup to the mixture.
Can we substitute baking chocolate with cocoa powder?
Yes, by adding fat and adjusting the other ingredients.
What's the best way to store leftover coffee?
Keeping it in a sealed container in the refrigerator.
How can we prevent cookies from becoming too flat?
Using a combination of butter and shortening in the dough.
Can we substitute regular yogurt with Greek yogurt?
Yes, but it might affect the texture of the final dish.
What's the secret to a tender grilled steak?
Marinating it beforehand and letting it rest after cooking.